So one of the games I have been really excited for this year is High on Life. I know this review is coming a couple days after release and I would usually review it like the day after or the day that the game comes out, but I wanted to get a lot of hours in before I did a full review. Now, just to let everyone know, I wasn't sent this game early, I wasn't sent a review copy. I woke up on the 13th, downloaded it on Game Pass, just like everyone else mostly, and I did play this on the Xbox Series X, but with that out of the way, let's get straight to it. So one thing I need to say and just quickly get out of the way is that, and this is a hot take, I don't like Rick and Morty. I know I'll get shit on in the comments for that, but I'm just trying to be real with you. I watched the first few episodes, like the first 10 episodes or something, and I thought it wasn't good, to say the least. So when High on Life was announced, I didn't really have any interest because I assumed it would basically just be Rick and Morty the game. Then, while watching the Xbox and Bethesda showcase earlier this year, mostly for Starfield, I saw the gameplay for High on Life, and I thought it looked really great, and it really got me interested, and it quickly became one of my more anticipated games of this year, especially since I've been looking for a new fun shooter to play. So as usual with my brutally honest reviews, we're going to cover all of the good stuff and then get into the bad towards the end of the video. It's also important to note that all of the footage from this game is from the first 3 missions. It might actually be just from the first 2, so no spoilers in this video, and I only show off 2 or maybe 3 guns. Okay, so first things first, this game is great. It's really fun, but it has its problems, which again we'll talk about later. One of my concerns going into this game was the guns, who, as I'm sure you all know, talk to you and have personalities, but I was really concerned that they would just be repeating the same lines. And they really don't. I mean, they do like a tiny bit, but I've only noticed it once or twice. To put it simply, this game is a really fun drop in, drop out kind of shooter game. It is definitely one of the more unique shooters out there. The guns and the knife especially are so ridiculously funny. It just makes me love the game even more, but honestly, you could take the talking guns out of this game and I still think it would be good, it just wouldn't be great. Now again, without going into any spoilers, the game's story is basically this. Earth gets invaded by aliens, you find a talking pistol, he talks to you and takes you and your sister and your entire home to an alien planet. Once there, you become a bounty hunter and you wander around a semi-open world, collecting these guns and collecting bounties. That's pretty much it. It's a really simple game at heart, but it has a lot to do and a lot to discover and a lot more content than I expected. For whatever reason, I genuinely thought that this would just be a solid 5 to 10 hour game with at best some crappy side content, but I've put around 20 hours, probably more, into the game at this point, and I still have bounties, missions and quests to do. I mean, I'm really taking my time with it, but the game is a lot bigger than I expected. One thing I really want to shout out is the opening of the game. No spoilers again, obviously, but you basically start playing a game within the game, which was surprising in itself, but the game was also surprisingly fun. I actually really wish that you could go back up to your bedroom in the game and play more of this game in the game. And the transition from suddenly stopping this game, which you can see here, was really smooth.
Goodbye to mom and dad before they left for their trip.
Like, even the achievements are funny as hell. Again, I won't spoil it, but I will tell you one which I loved. Basically, if you shoot this alien kid and kill him, you get the achievement Fallout doesn't let you do that, which made me absolutely burst out laughing, like nearly falling off my chair laughing. If you've played Fallout or Elder Scrolls, you'll know how irritating the kids are in those games, and as a massive Fallout fan, I absolutely loved this achievement. But that's pretty much everything I want to say about the story, but now going into graphics and performance, it's okay. It's nothing to write home about, but it works. The FPS could be better, but again, we'll talk about that in a bit. And I don't have any issues there, but yes, it could have been improved. The graphics, again, are okay, nothing to really brag about. The game looks great in itself, but there were times where the graphics would just kind of blur, even with motion blur off. There's a scene where you're in a penthouse and someone says, "Look at that view," and if you actually go and look out of the window, it's just these horrible white buildings with really piss poor poly textures, and that made me laugh, but overall the graphics are pretty solid. Now, the combat is the absolute highlight of this game because besides maybe the humour, the combat is just stupid fun. I mean, just swinging around with the knife, using the jetpack to fly over a bunch of enemies and shoot them from above, which I just realised I don't have any footage of, but whatever. The animations of all of the guns are really nice and every gun feels really good to use, besides the shotgun. I don't know what it was, but the shotgun just felt really weak to me for a shotgun. I haven't really used it despite thinking the gun's dialogue lines are really funny. Now, I do unfortunately have to talk about the bad stuff, and again, unfortunately, there is quite a bit to cover. Around an hour and a half into the game, I died during the first boss battle. The game decided to respawn me out of the room in a different cell, telling me I needed to go back into said room and escape the HQ, and I just couldn't go anywhere. I was trapped on this like weird little island thing, and to make matters worse, the game doesn't support multiple saves, so I could only go back to the last autosave point, which was when I spawned outside of the cell. So in order to fix this, I had to start the entire game over, which really took me out of the game and, to be honest, really pissed me off. There was also another time where basically within the missions there are portals where you can go back home and like buy new stuff, and then you can come back to said mission and just pick up right where you left off, which is great. But there was a time where I did this and for whatever reason the portal in your house didn't take me back to where I was in the mission. It took me right back to the start and I had to run through the entire map again. And then you get to this elevator, which originally you go in and then breaks. So because the elevator was already broken, I couldn't get back down to where I needed to be, but I managed to sort of glitch myself down there. So that was obviously another problem. No hate to the developers, but I really just don't understand how so many developers in modern games don't catch on to massive game-breaking bugs like this during testing. Like, I really don't. This really annoyed me so much that I really just wanted to close the game off for a few hours, but I was like, nope, let's just do everything again because I've got to get this review out. So I guess just be careful of all of this stuff until it's fixed. Another thing that's important to note is the FPS drops. Again, like I said a moment ago, this didn't really bother me because it wasn't too noticeable, but it did happen and I know that it will bother some of you a lot. There was also this really weird camera shaking thing going on during the first couple of missions, like you would just be talking to an NPC and the camera would just start to rapidly shake around, which was weird. It stopped happening after a while. Again, nothing game breaking, but still worth warning about. There was also a lot of talking at times, and I know that that won't bother a lot of you guys, but I found it very slow. Like, okay, so there would be a few times where you would have to go and talk to an NPC, and they would go on a run about some unimportant shit, and I know it's supposed to be funny, and for the most part it is, but when it's not funny, it's really noticeable, right? Like, I hope that makes sense. Like, you're just kind of sitting there waiting for them to finally shut up and tell you where you need to go, so then you can hurry up and go and kill more aliens. A few other really good things I want to mention is the dialogue between your sister and Jean is great. It really had me laughing and I absolutely love the dynamic between the two. The worlds you travel to are also really well designed. Every world is really unique and different, which is great because I feel the game would get a little bit boring if every planet looked alike. But yeah, it's a super fun game, really enjoyable, and I absolutely love it and would recommend it. But that is basically everything I have to say about High on Life. So now we need to do buy, wait for sale, or avoid, as we usually do in my reviews. And I will tell you right now, if you have Game Pass, I absolutely recommend downloading and playing this game right now or as soon as you can, because I genuinely am having such a fun time with it and it's definitely one of my favourite games of this year. Now, if you don't have Game Pass, this game is around $50 to $60 from Googling, and it's around the same price in the UK, £50 to £60. And I've got to be honest, it's really difficult for me to recommend anyone buys a game for £60/$. I say this in all my reviews. You guys know I think video games are so stupidly overpriced. I think it's eventually going to put the video game industry into the same problems as the movie industry, but I have to say wait for sale. And it really breaks my heart to say that because I'm absolutely loving this game, and like I said, it's easily a top 3 game of this year for me. Look, if you can spare the cash and easily afford it, sure, yeah, it's worth getting now. But I've got to be honest, this isn't a game that you're going to be spending hundreds and hundreds of hours in unless they add a shit ton of new content. I think if you're spending over $50 or pounds on a game, it's got to be one that you know you're going to be playing for months on end. So yeah, I have to say wait for sale, but if you can afford it, without it taking a chunk of your paycheck, it's worth the money. Anyway, that is my review on High on Life. I hope that I helped you make a decision on whether or not you should play this game. Drop the video a like for me if you haven't already, and please do consider subscribing if you're new around here. I mostly cover open world RPGs, leaks, announcements, and things like that, but we do a ton of video game reviews too if you're interested in that. But as always, I thank you all so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in the next one.